10-5. Phil Taylor, Adrian Lewis is a little bit later on. And then we got Michael van Gerwen, Raymond van Barneveld. But up next, it is Gary Anderson taking on Mensa Suljovic. So Gary, twice a world champion and was a semi-finalist here in Cardiff in the Champions League last year. But let's find out if he remembers all those great performances.
Gary Anderson on the hockey. Let's go.
Who was your opponent on your television debut at the Lakeside in 2002?
Stefan Nagy.
Score?
Probably 3-0 to him.
You have played in 8 PDC World Championships, winning the title twice. How many times have you lost in the first round at the Ali Pali?
None.
Who did you defeat in the final to win your first televised major, the 2007 International Darts League?
Mark Webster.
By what score did you beat Phil Taylor to win the 2007 World Darts Trophy?
It was quite a big difference. 7-4.
7-3.
7-3.
You've twice won matches against players who hit televised 9-dart finishes against you. Who were they?
Merv King. James Wade.
You made your Premier League debut in 2011 and went on to claim the title. Who were the 2 players you beat at Wembley on finals night?
Eddie Lewis in the final. That was easy. And Barney. Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I didn't know. I realised I knew all this.
You won the Premier League for the second time in 2015, but who had 3 darts to beat you in the semi-finals?
Chizzy, Dave Chisnell. And I took a 116 out.
Who is the one player that you beat on the way to winning both of your PDC World Championship titles?
Oh, now you've got me. Yellow Klassen?
Gary Anderson. That's your lot. And here's what you got.
It is incredible how much you guys remember in your darts careers and any sporting careers. It is incredible how even some players I've spoken to even remember a shot or a dart or any aspect of the sport they play. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think dart players just tend to remember a lot. I think sometimes that can be to their detriment, because if you're remembering things like that, you're remembering defeats as well. Some of the best players in the world have got the worst memories. But some of the great players like Gary Anderson have just proved that they do remember some of the things that they do.
Beaten semi-finalist last year. Hopes for Gary Anderson this year, Mark?
Yeah, I think he'll do okay. I mean, he's got a great record in group format. I don't think he's ever failed to get out of his group in the Grand Slam. So I think he enjoys that he can sort of relax into this first game, knowing he's got other games. And then once he's in the semis and maybe the final, he's going to be a big player.
And what about Mensa? What sort of challenge does he pose? He's pretty consistent, isn't he?
He poses a very good challenge for Gary Anderson, because Gary Anderson hates playing Mensa Suljovic. His rhythm is erratic. He does what he likes. He's got a style that you can't copy. And Gary just doesn't like it. It's it's methodical, but it's not orthodox whatsoever. He likes to play against the flowing players. Mensa Suljovic has just been rampant in the last 18 months with his form. He's cooled off a little bit lately, but he might be ready to strike this weekend again.
And how will he be feeling, Mark, as well, about this format of the tournament? Round robin, as we've established, have to get off to a good start.
Yeah, he'll be very relaxed. Like Paul said, Mensa just has got his own style. He does what he wants, and he won't be deterred about playing Gary Anderson or any other player in this tournament. I think he's got a head-to-head record of 2-2 with Gary, so he's proved he can beat him, and he's beat him on the big stage in the World Match Play, I think, a couple of years ago.
The other thing I remember about Gary last year, do you remember this when he came and had a chat with us, as all the players do, once they've won a match as well? He had trouble sleeping, do you remember? And he found himself walking around the streets of Cardiff at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I don't know if he's had a good night's sleep last night, but I suppose Gary Anderson fans are hoping he will.
Yeah, usually he's one of the best sleepers on tour, apart from the guy next to me. But he'd taken a lot of time off before the event last year, and I think he was just having these thoughts whirring around his head. But this year, his preparation has been brilliant. He won in Perth at the end of August. He's taken a couple of weeks off leading into this. He's got the perfect balance of rest and competitive practice.
And those of you who know Cardiff, 5 o'clock in the morning means the people are still on a night out.
I heard them at 6:30 from my hotel room.
Okay then, the players are standing by. Let's join John.
Hello, welcome back to the great city of Cardiff! Yes, welcome along to the Unibet Champions League of Darts, brought to you by the Professional Darts Corporation. We welcome our viewers joining us on BBC Sport. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to meet the players. Would you please welcome from Austria, the European Championship finalist and a winner of a PDC ranking event. Ladies and gentlemen, the gentle Suljovic! And now, ladies and gentlemen, the pride of Scotland, a two-time Premier League champion, a two-time back-to-back champion of the world, the Flying Scotsman! Gary!
Warren a little has joined us in the studio, and that means it's Paul and Vassos.
Well, sorry to disappoint everybody, but Vassos has taken a well-earned rest. It's Dan Dawson and Paul Nicholson in the commentary box for this one, and what a game it is. A fascinating clash of styles. The Flying Scotsman, Gary Anderson, two-time world champion, two-time Premier League champion, world number 2, and one of the most fluent throwers in the game, taking on possibly the most awkward looking thrower in the game in Mensur Suljovic, the gentle, the Austrian making his debut in this Champions League of Darts, and a very, very tough opponent, and one that Gary Anderson absolutely despises coming up against. Loves Mensur as a man, lovely fella, but as an opponent, he absolutely hates him.
He absolutely does. He'd much rather be playing Michael van Gerwen right now, or Adrian Lewis, because they play at the same pace as he does. Mensur Suljovic is the epitome of unconventional.
And just to highlight how awkward it can be, they've even messed up their handshake at the start. I love that. We're going for a fist bump and a handshake. It all got messy, and Mensur is starting perfectly.
Well, we've mentioned in the coverage earlier that Mensur Suljovic has been a little bit off form in the last few weeks, but he started this tournament rather well.
Well, one in the skinny 5, no help to him, but a good adjustment. Mensur has just become a dad once again, and it's only, I think, 3.5 weeks since his little girl was born, he has said that coming away to the darts at weekends is blessed relief. He can actually get some sleep, and you never know. It might just be that this weekend in Cardiff, if Mensur Suljovic can recapture the form that he was showing last year, the year before, as he's risen up the rankings to world number 7, then do not rule this man out of going all the way.
Well, you can't rule anybody out in this field. Best players in the world. And Suljovic right now is making things awkward for Anderson in the very first leg. Could well go treble 16 here, because he will want to leave his favourite double 14 as much as he can.
Not many players in the world of darts have a favourite double that is double 14, but Mensur Suljovic has made it his own to such an extent that it's now known as the Mensur. But he's pretty handy anywhere on the outer ring, and it's double top he wants for a 13 darter.
Double 10 he gets. Yeah, Suljovic we saw earlier on with his grip. It's very unconventional, as we've mentioned with Mensur style as a whole, but he strangles the dart, which is in complete contrast to the Gary Anderson grip, because he's holding his dart like a feather.
It doesn't matter how you hold them if you kick off 180 every leg, which is what Mensur Suljovic is looking to do in this one. Another maximum for the Austrian.
A lot of people before this week started, Dan, were tipping Gary Anderson for glory here, because he had the perfect balance of having a couple of weeks rest. He's already mentioned to a lot of us that he's not getting any younger. But he won the Perth Darts Masters at the end of last month, so he's come into this in really good shape. But at the moment, it just looks like Suljovic is up for this. He's ready for the challenge that the Flying Scotsman's going to give him.
Well, look, we saw Dave Chisnell earlier on. He and Peter Wright, the first couple of legs, it was back-to-back 11 darters. Chizzy didn't really manage to maintain that kind of form through the game. So it is early days here, but you cannot argue with how Mensur Suljovic has started this against the world number 2, and he's got a shot at 1-2-1 here. Treble 20 will be the first dart, and he would love to hit treble 11 with the next.
It'll have to be a treble 17, which he gets for the bullseye. And now you know that Anderson wants to leave tops, so a treble 20 and a single 2 and a double top will get him level.
82.
One dart missed by each player. Mensur Suljovic, 9 for double 8, you would think. It is. Sliding in alongside that one. Into the top section of the bed, and Mensur fired up for this one. Break a throw 2-0.
Mensur to throw first. Game on.
We've mentioned as well that Mensur Suljovic hasn't just got his own double, but he's got his own celebration. The headbutt.
Ah, the Mensur headbutt. We will see it repeatedly, I would bet.
59.
A lovely use of the lie, and he knows that getting a lead on Gary Anderson is paramount for his success in this match.
Well, you look at their previous meetings, they've only met 4 times, but Gary has won a couple of them. It's 2 apiece. If you just looked at the overall record like that, you would think it's fairly even. But the key thing is, every single time Mensur has got close. The 2 games that Gary won, he only won them 6-5, both in Barnsley. The other games, one was won by Mensur in April, but the big one, the World Match Play, their first meeting a couple of years ago, and Mensur making it through to the quarterfinals for the first time, beat Gary Anderson in a longer format game, 13-9, and Gary could not handle it. Well, Mensur there, perhaps not thinking completely clearly. He was going for a 140, it would have left 162. That's a bogey number, you can't go out from 162. That's why Gary had switched over to the 18s there.
Yeah, very uncharacteristic from the Austrian, because he is renowned as one of the best counters in the game. And when we were looking at Gary's coaching tool on the screens before we started here today. He was talking about that very shot, that 302, where you utilise your mathematics to get to a finish.
Well, he has got to a finish, Gary Anderson. It's not one he's going to take out. However,
58.
Mensur, this is a huge one. Not going to happen. Anderson, chance to break straight back.
Even though Gary wants the treble 20 here, he will not be heartbroken. Well, hang on a second. 61. 61 remains. He just checks with the referee the right thing to do if you're not sure. Bullseye. Just tell that Gary's a little bit out of rhythm here, Dan. He's not comfortable.
Well, he should have had at least a dart at a double there. In the end, he only got one at the bullseye, and it could well prove to be a significant blow in the early stages of this, because Mensur, 2 darts at a double, no mistake from the gentle in hitting the big number. And no mistake on the double either. Mensur Suljovic comes from a significant way behind in that one. It is 3-0 to a man who's come into this tournament as one of the rank outsiders. As much as anybody in the top 8 in the world can be a rank outsider.
Isn't that the beauty of the tournament? That sometimes you just get things happening that you don't fully understand or predict. And that's one of the reasons why we love this sport and why we keep watching it.
Well, just to go back to that match play meeting, their first meeting when Gary was beaten by Mensur, that's where we found out just how much Anderson dislikes playing Mensur. He was quite open about it at the end of the match, saying it just baked his head. He could not handle it. He wants to be up there and racing around the stage, chucking in visits, rat-a-tat-tat stuff. That's when Gary Anderson can flow, and it often produces his best stuff. This is pretty good.
133.
Good use of the treble 19 from Gary Anderson. Understood that if he got a treble 19 and 2 singles, it would still leave a finish. He's trying to put more pressure on Suljovic now. Battle of the 3 dart finishes. Who gets the first shot of the double?
Could have gone a lot better there. This is a huge one. Mensur Suljovic used to play a lot of soft tip darts. Slightly different game. They love a bullseye, a soft tip player. Use it all the time. Now he might need the bullseye at the end of this, because treble 17 gives him a shot at it. And these soft tip players love a bullseye. Oh, but he can't find it.
He made it move, but Gary Anderson was looking for 2 double tops there. Now he needs a 25 and a bullseye.
55.
Just a little bit more on that and it was in, but it dipped at the end, and it gives Suljovic a chance at 988 once more.
For the second leg running, Gary Anderson misses a big number. That was very close to busting his score there, Mensur Suljovic. But that is exactly where it needs to be. But for 2 legs running now, the second best player in the world, according to the world rankings, has missed a big number, and it has cost him a dart at a double. He's only got a dart at the bullseye. He's failed to hit it, and Mensur has taken advantage. 4-0 with 2 breaks of throw.
38.
It's clinical from Suljovic. But Gary Anderson has always been the advocate when on 80 left to go for 2 double tops, and he always guarantees a 20 by going very low on the first one. If he snags the double top, he'll then hit another one. But if he hits the single, he can then have another single and hit tops. You can tell that he may be slightly rusty with that big 5. I've never seen him do that before.
Well, that's the thing as well. When you go double top, you've always got a chance of missing outside the board and scoring nothing. But you're minimising the chance of missing wide. It's the widest section of the dartboard for the 20 there. And for him to miss, it's just not the Gary Anderson we know. The averages are still 97 apiece here, but Gary Anderson has only had 3 darts at double. 2 of them have been at the bullseye, and he should have had darts at actual doubles. It's mistakes of his own making here, Anderson.
If you were to look at the statistics only and not the leg score, you'd probably say that the guys were level. But the checkered percentages really do tell the story, don't they?
Something about doubles for Doe. Very nearly one of those 180s for show there. And once again, Anderson is having a mare on the bullseye today.
42.
Goalkeeper's in on that bullseye for Anderson. But now Suljovic, treble 20 will leave the Suljovic, the double 14. He's got it. It's right in the bottom of that bed. Double 14. It's a perfect guide. Oh, that's why it's called the Suljovic. He's got it. He's got that double, but he's also got a 5-0 lead against the world number 2.
Gary Anderson came into this as the favourite. He came into this as a lot of people's tips to go on and win the whole thing. But Mensur Suljovic is not just beating the world number 2 on his Champions League of Darts debut. He is annihilating him right now. And he's not stopping. It could be another.
It's a beautiful angle to show you that he used his second dart, which missed the board, to his aid to get it into the double 14. The way his darts stand up in the board, it was a perfect guide. And if he missed the double slightly, the other dart was going to help it, and it did.
Yeah, Mensur, we know, you look at the way he throws a dart, where he holds a dart, his legs kicking, his arms and legs going everywhere. It is not an orthodox throw, but the way his darts go into the board and the way he uses them is quite orthodox, isn't it?
Very much so. From a physics point of view, he's enhanced everything he does in the last 15, 20 years. When he does the leg kick, it doesn't actually mess with his arm. It's just an idiosyncrasy that some players have. And Mensur Suljovic does it a little bit more eccentrically than others.
55.
And Mensur has benefited. There you go. There's a leg. Mensur Suljovic has benefited from Gary Anderson making a bit of a mess of things at the back end of legs and has got a couple of breaks. But this is just a stunning leg from the Gentle, who's looking at 16. Double 9 it is. You know what that's next to, don't you? It's next to the Mensur, and he pins it for a 12-darter. It is 6-0 to the Gentle, who is being anything but.
Well, Rudolf Nureyev has got nothing on Mensur Suljovic when it comes to dancing on the hockey, but right now Suljovic is dancing all over Gary Anderson. And Dan Dawson, this is unbelievable.
Well, this is not a surprise that Mensur Suljovic can go and average 103, as he is doing right now. As Anderson finally comes to the party and hits his first 180. He's still averaging 98 and getting done 6-0 here, the world number 2. But it is a surprise that Mensur has done this now, after a few weeks, if not months, of relative inactivity.
99.
What we can confirm to the guys at home is that
It's got to be 3 perfect darts.
starting to settle. His form goes up. Suljovic's form ever so slightly goes down a bit.
Well, Mensur's still averaging 102.5. Gary Anderson's average is up to nearly 102, though. The 6-leg gap is now 4. The crowd starts singing his name. Maybe the Flying Scotsman might mount a stirring fight back here.
He's starting to hit the segments he's going for. It's that simple in darts sometimes. But the averages, very, very similar. Like we said a few legs ago, it could have been level, but it was 6-0 Suljovic. Checkered percentage is not bad at all, but it's the timing of Suljovic that has been impeccable up until the last couple of legs anyway.
Yeah, the stats, there's not much between them. There really isn't. If you told any player in darts, after the first 8 legs you're averaging 103 and hitting 40% of your doubles, you're thinking, yeah, I'll take that. I'll be ahead with that.
84.
Certainly not.
In the last match with Peter Wright and Dave Chisnell went into the break absolutely thrilled with 4-6 down. Gary Anderson will dance off stage if he's 4-6 down.
And that is something I would like to see. Down for the 19s. Now, these are the sorts of checkouts that can win you games. Awkward ones. You may only get one dart at a double. Your opponent's on a finish himself. Has Mensur Suljovic got the winning double? 18 for double top. Crucial moment. And Mensur does not find the target.
Anderson looking for treble 18. Now he's looking at tops again.
42.
Just lacking a bit of pace. And contrary to the last couple of legs, Anderson couldn't check it out. So Suljovic has 3 in hand to take a 7-2 advantage.
Double 10. Chasing it around the board. Double 5 last dart in hand.
30. Gary require 20.
Double 10. Slightly awkward. Well, if the first one wasn't, that definitely is. Can he bend it around? No, he can't. The crowd can't believe it. They're coming to Gary's aid, but he's unable to get that double.
This is awkward, and it's important. Mensur, double 5. Can't afford to miss inside now. Doesn't, so he still gets another crack at it. And he gets it! And he knows the Mensur headbutt makes an appearance. 7-2, and the world number 2 is potentially 3 legs away from losing his opening game.
Well, Dan, we've been watching Mensur Suljovic for quite a long time in PDC Tour darts, and that may be the most subdued headbutt celebration I've ever seen. It was almost whimsical.
134.
He's not usually one for holding back in his celebrations, Mensur Suljovic, but I guess when you've survived a whole host of darts to lose the leg, maybe tone it down a touch. I think that's more relief than anything.
Get Mensur Suljovic in a real gritty game where he's playing at his peak, and that celebration gets ever so slightly more aggressive.
100.
But I like the double 5 from Suljovic because yes, the first 2 darts weren't perfect, but it was an aggressive dart, the third one, and it got him that check mark for a 7-2 lead.
Well, look, this is the last leg before a short break. Mensur Suljovic, if he were to produce another break of throw here, and he is giving himself a real chance. Oh, that's an awkward one.
25. Gary require 124.
Treble 18 for the bullseye.
90.
And he edges it once more. 142 is very, very tricky. 2 trebles needed. Takes the treble 20 option. Went for the other one. If he'd have hit it,
100.
it would have been double 11.
25.
Well, he's almost left himself double 1 there, but Gary Anderson, double 12. It's the double he hit to win both his world titles, and it's a crucial one in this one that may just keep him in this game. Mensur Suljovic 7-3 up on the world number 2 and just 3 legs away from a shock victory on his Champions League debut.
Thank you to Dan Hand, all back with the lads, shortly. No dancing on the stage from Gary Anderson. World number 2 under the cosh here. Mensah Suljovic making his debut here in the Champions League. What a fabulous start. Back there very shortly. So a bit of a change in the commentary box, a bit of a change here in the studio. Alan has joined us here in the studio. And what a fantastic performance from Mensah.
Well, yeah, it's certainly not the scoreline anybody expected, certainly not the scoreline Gary expected, and probably not Mensah either. But he got out of the blocks very quickly, 6-0 lead, and Gary was frustrated all the way through the early part of the match.
There was an element of frustration, wasn't there, from Gary today?
Yeah, he seemed very frustrated at the end, and even though he won that last leg for the interval, I think he made a bit of a hash of a finish in, I think, the third or fourth leg. And then those 3 darts to make it 6-3, I think it was. You know, he could potentially be in there 6-4 now, and that would have been like a victory for him, because it was looking very grim.
Yeah, let's just take a look at that.
Yeah, it's just basics really. He's missed a big number, and then you're having to rely on a ball finish then, which is a bit of a lottery, and obviously Mensah tidied up the leg.
Yeah. Gary Anderson played 3-1-3 last year, Alan. Absolutely cruised to the semi-finals last year. What is going on out there for him?
Yeah, a different story this weekend, isn't it? I mean, it's a bad start for him. He's still got an opportunity, but a very difficult one, to get the first 2 points on the board. If he loses, he's going to have to win his next 2 games. Very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, we touched on it at the beginting. It was a tricky tie for Gary. He's not got, he's normally got a massive good record against opponents. It's level with Mensah, and Gary's a rat-tat-tat player. He likes to just go in rhythm, and Mensah won't do that. And he's got a big ass now. He's got to make up 4 legs to get level, and it's a big ass for Gary.
And also, when you're looking at some of the newspapers as well, some of the previews to this year's tournament, a lot of people described Mensah as a very dangerous opponent for any of these players.
Yeah, he turned himself into one of the contenders, got himself to a major final and gave him that much confidence, got himself in the top 8. That's why he's here this weekend. And he's a very dangerous player to play against. Always averages around 100. If you give him a chance, he'll take it.
Yeah. If you do want to get in touch with us, by the way, then do use the hashtag BBC Darts. You can go via the BBC Darts on Twitter and on our website, and also on Facebook. In fact, if there's any question that you have for Mark, for Paul, for Alan, for any of our commentators as well, we'd love to hear from you. Do get in touch. Hashtag BBC Darts. Love to hear from you. Right, let's go back to our commentators. It is, of course, the wonderful voice of Mr. Dan Dawson.
Well, Mensah Suljovic, the top player from Austria, the greatest Austrian darts player in history, is 3 legs away from a eyebrow-raising victory against the world number 2, and his 3rd career victory in 5 games with Gary Anderson. As things stand, both men averaging just shy of 100. Mensah hitting more doubles, but these breaks can change games, can't they? We've seen that before.
They can indeed, and Premier League darts experience that Gary Anderson has got to be in his favour now, because in the past they've played games on big stages and on this very stage here in Cardiff, where they've had a break in the middle, they've had to come back, and Gary's going to need all that experience now in order to get this deficit down and give himself a chance to strike and get that win.
Well, there have been a few uncharacteristic mistakes from Gary Anderson that have helped Mensah Suljovic get to this position, and in the words of Michael Van Gerwen, he can no longer afford any mistakes.
All he'll be thinking about now is getting level. That's the most important thing. Get level with him, come out the blocks like Suljovic did in session 1 and break him in this leg, and then keep going.
Well, Mark Webster mentioned before this match that Gary Anderson, he's got great record in these sort of group stage format tournaments. The Grand Slam is the other one. He absolutely adores the Grand Slam. He says that is the one he really wants to tick off his list. He's won the Premier League a couple of times, the World Championship a couple of times, Players' Championship finals. That's a good one to win, isn't it, Paul? That one?
Yeah, not too bad.
But the Grand Slam is the one he really, really craves. But he'd certainly like to add this, because he's made, if he hasn't won a big TV title in the PDC, he's made at least the final, apart from here and at the World Match Play.
82.
Talking about Gary's experience as well, is that he can negotiate his way through a tournament very, very well. At the Wolverhampton Civic, where they play the Grand Slam of darts, a lot of times he has lost his first match in the group stages and then rebounded so well. Remember the year that I made my debut at the Grand Slam, I actually played Gary in my first game. He made the semi-finals that year. I got eliminated from the group, so it's a marathon, not a sprint. He understands that concept.
Yeah, that is the luxury you get in these group stage formats. I don't think Mensah would have gone the bullseye route for this, because Gary Anderson not on a finish. All he wanted to do was set it up. In the end, he should give himself 2 darts for an 8-3 lead.
Big mathematical error from Gary Anderson. In his anger, he's gone for a 20. Should have been a 19 to leave a finish, just in case Suljovic doesn't clean up this double top. And now Gary Anderson does not have a shot at a finish.
We talk about counting, we talk about going for the correct shots and the right routes, and there is an example of how it can cost you. Mensah is coming back to the board here. Gary had no chance of going out in that visit. It could have been different. It could have been winning that first leg after the break. He may yet do it. But the double 5, it was crucial earlier.
10 score. Gary require 110.
Can he keep himself in this match with a vital 110 checkout? Treble 18 just goes next door. Suljovic knows that he cannot miss this time.
And so you require 10.
Double 5. He is 2 legs away. And Gary Anderson, we know he doesn't like playing Mensah Suljovic. We know he finds it hard, but today doesn't look like it'll change his mind, despite firing in his second 180 of the game.
It's very fair to say that there are more Gary Anderson fans in this audience than there are Mensah Suljovic fans. Having said that, Mensah mania is making its way through the UK a little bit more these days, as opposed to Germany and Austria and Holland.
Who knows? Mensah could be destined for even bigger things. Major titles, Premier League spot, World Series maybe. We shall see.
Well, look at the effect that Mensah Suljovic has had on Austrian darts. Young guys coming through, other players who are a little bit more experienced in years, who have picked up the darts again and decided to get better. He's had this feed-on effect, and that's what the PDC are trying to do worldwide, with Australia, with New Zealand, with North America. You get one talisman in a country, watch it explode, and that's exactly what's happening with World Darts.
Well, Gary Anderson thinking a little more clearly this leg. He went for the 18 in the last visit and did leave himself a finish. It's academic, really, but he's chipping away.
There have been a lot of misdarted doubles in this match, but Gary needs to hit this one. And it's that same spot to the left and low. That characteristic is telling us that maybe the throw is a little bit languid and a little bit stretched.
Hang about. Hang about. Mensah for a huge one, double top. It's there! Mensah Suljovic a leg away. A stunning 157. And Gary Anderson is on the brink.
Unmistakably the best finish we've seen so far in this year's Champions League of Darts. And the headbutt this time was a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more confident. Not so whimsical this time.
You earn that celebration, 157. And they hurt, don't they, Paul? Particularly if you've just missed dot. You're way ahead, you've missed dots for the leg, and then they take out a massive one. They really hurt.
As an opponent, you know that the guy in front of you is capable of hitting it. But realistically, you say to yourself, I'll get another shot. But for the amount of times it's been done to Gary Anderson, he has done it to other people. So what goes around comes around sometimes. It just seems to me that Suljovic is a little bit sharper today, and he's taking advantage of the shots.
Well, every single game they have had in the past, all 4 have been pretty close. A 6-4 win for Mensah and a 13-9 win at the match play, that first meeting a couple of years ago. Gary's wins have both been 6-5. But this is a chasm between these two in the legs. Not in the stats, not in the averages, but in the legs. And that is all that matters. Because Mensah has a very realistic opportunity to win this 10-3. And not only mean it's a losing start for Gary Anderson, but put a big dent in his hopes of getting out the group, because that leg difference is not going to do him any favours.
It's all about leg difference, not just now, but tonight and tomorrow. 56, and it could be all over.
Double top once again. And the gentle has brutalised Gary Anderson. A 10-3 win for the Austrian on his debut in the Champions League. Soaring to the top of the group. And look at the celebration from the man. Gary Anderson, a huge amount of work to do for the 2-time world champion and world number 2. Mensah Suljovic 10-3. You got it right, 10-3. Gary Anderson, the world number 2. Well, he'll be back in action tonight and will have to turn around a huge deficit in the leg difference.
Thank you to Dan and to Paul. What a terrific performance from Mensah Suljovic. Did you see that coming at all, Mark?
I wouldn't say...
No, you didn't.
I
Come
couldn't
on.
see Suljovic winning, but yeah, a margin of 10-3 is a massive margin, obviously. And with this group format, he's got a good leg difference now as well. But yeah, obviously a big shock. But Gary was very frustrated in that game. I don't think he really snapped out of it in the break.
Wow.
Yeah, Mensah like an Austrian waltzer all the way through the match, wasn't it? I mean, let's not take it away how well he did play in that match, because he put Gary under pressure from the word go. And at 6-0 ahead, you know, it was always, the writing was always going to be on the wall, and he carried on the way through the match, and you know, 1-6-7 towards the end, fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic scoring as well. And I suppose it's always hard to haul yourself back into a match when you've got that sort of deficit, Alan. No matter how many titles you've won.
It's very difficult. You know, you go through a game like that, you can see frustration and you know, everything can happen going through your mind because you're mad at yourself, and it can come across on the board.
Yeah, I think we were talking about the deficit. When he had the chance to win that, I think it was the 9th leg, to make it 6-3, and then it could have gone on to be 6-4. I think that kept in his head then in the break. He was frustrated with that, and he never looked like getting back in it. But Mensah did a job, like we said. He stayed solid, and he chipped the 1-5-7, so fair play.
What the beauty of this tournament as well, Alan, or the nightmare scenario, if you're Gary Anderson or a Gary Anderson fan, is that you get off to a great start if you win, and you're looking good for a place in the semi-finals if you continue to win, like we saw with some of the players last year. But if you lose, suddenly you've got this massive showdown, haven't you? And so, you know, Dave Chisnell's lost, and now Gary Anderson has lost. Now it's very much all or nothing for them. Yeah,
it's almost that negative feeling that you want to try and keep away from. You lose a game, and all of a sudden you're thinking you're going to be out unless you win your next two. Instead of taking it game by game, which is easy to say, when you're in that position, it's very hard, because you're thinking of, if I do lose, I'm out. Because that's what groups sometimes show up. We've seen that in many sports.
Yeah, like you said, it's technically a knockout game tonight now for David and Gary. And we touched on, you know, Gary's legs have taken a bit of a hammering there, so he does come down to the leg deciders after the 3 games. He'll need to recoup some in the next 2 games.
And Mensah, how far in this tournament could he go on that performance for you, Alan?
On that performance, why not? You know, he's played really well there. He's giving himself a great opportunity to get to the semi-finals. It's only 2 more games after that to win it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's show you then how Group B looks right now.